Hey everyone, welcome back to DemDMs. My name is Matt,
I'm Panda Ghost.
And I'm Fox Ghost.
and today we are starting the first in a series of videos where we collectively are going to be writing an adventure for D&D 5e. If that interests you, be sure to smite that like button, subscribe, and sneak attack the notification bell to be alerted of the next video in this series. Otherwise, if everybody's ready, let's slide on in. All right, guys. Well, we kind of started with a brief prompt for ourselves. We actually got this from a random generator, so we're going to be making tweaks, making additions, and try to bang out at least the core concept of the plot of this adventure here in this video. So make sure you're sticking around. And if you have any thoughts or anything like that, make sure to put down in the comments description or the comment section down below, and stay tuned. So the prompt for this that we're going to kind of riff off of is that the PCs are going to be coming across a wizard's laboratory early on in the adventure. They look around and it seems that this laboratory was recently under attack, and they see bodies strewn about of different soldiers from what seem to be two warring nations. They eventually come across a secret compartment housing a certain spell that allows someone to peer into some other plane of existence and spy on someone at a great distance. This then becomes the idea that they are quickly becoming kind of the focal point of two warring nations, and kind of the target of maybe assassination, of intrigue, and that sort of thing. So, guys, that's where we're going to kind of pick off with this concept, and let's get into it a little bit. All right.
Yeah. So first off, the party. I mean, obviously the party has limitless options, right, for how they can approach this, right? But there's pretty much going to be 3, maybe 4 options that they take this with, right? Well,
Sure.
one option is give it to one option to give it to the other nation, and then the other two would be destroy the information and then use the information.
Yeah. So, I mean, this actually leaves it open for your party to make decisions based off of what their characters would do. If they're more of like a mercenary party, maybe they wouldn't mind selling it to kind of the highest bidder, which might not even be one of these two nations. It could be a completely different third party that's interested in this spell that maybe is not involved in this conflict. Maybe there's, a chance for you to kind of do a different version of this kind of storyline based off of what your party wants to do, so we want to leave this a little bit sandboxy in that nature, right? Leave it free form, give you some ideas of the different groups involved, maybe some of the downsides of giving to certain people, or maybe the upsides or things like that, and different things. So we're going to kind of be taking this video by video and adding different parts to this. But so for right now, we're just going to be focusing on, generic what's happening concept for this story. So let's start with the first question that I think a lot of people are going to be wondering is, what levels do we want to be making this for, right? This is going to make decisions of, what monsters or, villains we're throwing in early on, or, throughout the adventure. So what kind of levels are we thinking, and what kind of length are we looking for this adventure?
I would think, now I have personal biases against starting at first, right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe starting at third might be good.
That's what I was
just
thinking.
because, like, you want the party to be kind of weak, so like you have imminent threats like that are following them, right? Like, a lot of times characters outpace regular humans really quick, and or like other playable races really quick, and so having the players at a lower level, they are still very much at risk of being overrun by too many soldiers or assassins or something like that.
Sure.
Bandits.
So we're thinking starting at third. I kind of, and maybe you guys can put your own spin on this. I kind of like it of being not like a full length campaign, but
Mhm.
more of like a adventure that would maybe take like if we're starting at third, if we're going with that idea, I would say going no higher than 10th.
Yeah, and even maybe,
Probably.
as low as 8th.
Yeah. So right
Yeah,
in
that's what I
that
was
kind of
thinking.
sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
I like that because in my mind, I don't really want this to get into like, the world's in shambles kind of adventure. I want this to be more of like a almost like
Mhm.
small intrigue
Right.
level,
Mm-hmm.
adventure. Um, so yeah, I think third to even 8, like you said, would probably be a good range for this one. I think you could have
Yes.
enough room within that to create a story that's gonna be interesting and
Yeah, and
fun
I
to play.
think that would be good and similar in length to Dragon Heist.
Sure, I mean that's first to fifth, but same length of
Yeah,
time.
still the same length of levels, just at shifted to 3 levels higher, right?
Yeah. I like the idea of keeping it low because, like you said, um, uh, you're going to vastly outpace, NPCs and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
pretty quickly. Now, what this does allow you to do is to, keep maybe a lot of like humanoid or, NPC villains and enemies, but maybe start opening up some use of magic items and things within your NPCs.
Mm-hmm.
Even low level ones that might have like a +1 or a +2,
Right.
something or other every
Right,
now and
and
then.
especially since we are talking about a magic laboratory here, this is obviously going to be a higher magic setting, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So you can get
yeah,
away with giving out more.
yeah. I mean, I like the idea of having it be kind of an arms race, right, with this
Mm-hmm.
spell.
Yeah.
I think very early on, it's going to be the players are going to have to figure out where they can hide almost. Like it's going to be, I want it to be made clear right off the get go that they are tangling with some very bad forces in the world, right? Like they're
Right.
some dangerous powers, right? Like these two opposing, countries or whatever they are. They are all, they're going to be looking for them, right? And they're going to need some place to crash, right?
Yep.
So I like the idea of maybe this would be a really good benefit to, um, like a roguish character
Mm-hmm.
that might have some kind of like seedy underbelly to go to, right? Not necessarily like,
Mm.
a full city, but maybe like a small
Like an
village or
information
something.
guild network kind of thing.
Yeah, or somewhere to at least at the very beginning take a load off and relax and process the information of what you have. You know,
Yeah, and on top of that, it might actually allow for some good integration with certain backgrounds, like the urchin
Crim-
or the folk hero
or
or
the
the
right?
criminal
criminal.
background
Or
Yeah.
the
too.
criminal. Yep.
hmm Yeah, and I think you can maybe even give some plot hooks based off of what backgrounds are taken or something like that if
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yep.
something you want to do.
One of the, I mean, and what one of the things I immediately thought of is what happens if one of the PCs was like the apprentice to the wizard, and
Sure.
you introduce them by finding them like cowering in a closet or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be a cool way to do it. Yeah. And then you kind of have this other entity within the group that's kind of has their opinions of what should be done, right? Based off of what they think their
Mm-hmm.
master would have wanted, right? That's interesting. I like that addition. I also, I think it could, like we said, I like the idea of having eventual like a third entity, maybe somebody that they meet earlier on in like the shadier parts of the world that just kind of wants it for their own nefarious purpose, and
Mm-hmm.
that's really the in quote unquote bad guy. Like the city states or whoever's at war, that's just an arms race. There's no bad guys on the other side. They just want to win the war,
Mm-hmm.
right, or
Right.
the conflict. This third person wants it for personal power and using it against maybe both of those city states.
Right. And
Right.
heck, they
Or the whole world.
that BBEG might not know about it first until like your players come into their secret
And show it off.
underground
Yeah.
area, and it works its way up the information guild, and well, now you have the apprentice who, let's just say one of the PCs decides to be the apprentice. He
Mhm.
wants to do what his master wanted to do with it, and you have the roguish character who's getting orders from the head of his guild that's like, hey,
Yeah.
kind of want that for myself now. So now you
Yeah.
have the inter-party conflict as well.
Yeah, with any kind of intrigue adventure, you kind of want each of the players to even have their own level of involvement in it and kind of difference of involvement, right? Like you want that kind of conflict as well, because then you can have, you know, some dialogue amongst the party of which way to go. You know, like I like the idea of maybe this third entity is like a wizard rogue almost, right? Like some sort of, not necessarily like a rogue, but like a wizard that's just kind of like down with the seedy stuff. You know what I mean? Or some sort of you know, person that is kind of low on the totem pole normally, but sees this as a way to step up in the world. You know. Let's think about some other things here. I mean, you know, obviously, I think we want to keep this for, you know, trying to create some rules for ourselves going forward. I really like the idea of keeping this with humanoid NPCs. I think, you know, you can introduce like golems and other things that humans create through magic or something. And maybe, you know, depending on what is involved with this kind of spell, maybe some, you know, aberrations or things of that nature. You know, but I like that I like that a lot. I think that that's interesting. What do we think about the idea that it's not the full spell, but a piece of the spell? That they have to are then thinking about finding the other portion of it.
Yeah, that, I mean, that would prevent.
I mean, I feel like if they have it really early on, it's very easy for them to just like wrap that up pretty quickly by deciding.
Yeah,
what to
right,
do,
exactly.
You know,
and that's what I was thinking. It would prevent them from ending the quest really early on, right? It would help extend it out better.
Like some do-gooder paladin comes over and just takes a torch to the paper.
Right, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I like that because then it also gives them, like, if they want to use it for their own use, they still need something, right?
Right,
But
exactly.
they have that first
could,
piece.
One thing, it could cost some, you know, totally rare material component that the adventuring party has to then go seek if they actually want to use it as well.
So it's not just the spell,
or maybe a couple. Maybe it requires like 3 different rare ingredients or something.
Well,
but having just ingredients does not prevent them from just burning the paper at the start of the campaign.
I like the idea of maybe it's you know, the spell itself is in parts, but there's also some ingredient that they need. Right.
A double MacGuffin hunt. A lot like Legend of Zelda games.
Yeah. And then you kind of have like a beginning, middle, end act, right? Kind of set up for you there of what they're doing. I think the first part of it is deciding what they want to do, right? Like maybe you can give some of the parties a side that they are part of in the war. Right.
I mean, they would obviously have, you know, be citizens of 1, 2, or both of these countries that are warring, right?
Yeah, and then they have to decide between that or giving it to this third person, or maybe finding it and, you know, locking it up somewhere. Like there should be, I think the two armies are the kind of morally gray.
Right. I mean, no one's good in war, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think the third party wizard is definitely evil and would use it for, you know, even probably expediting the war, to be honest. Then you have them, which would probably also fall under morally gray. But then there's possibly a fifth option of somebody else and safeguarding it. Maybe somebody that the apprentice of the wizard knows, right?
Right, and that would be who the apprentice would try and get it to.
Yeah, and then that is a possible reason to go look for these items for good, is to safeguard them against misuse. Like find these pieces before somebody else can, and then bring them back where they can be safe, right? And that would that could be kind of like a treasure hunt-esque adventure,
right?
You know.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. So far we have, the idea of the wizard tower. We have the idea of this spell. We have the idea of, possibly the spell only being a portion of what they need, whatever that means. We'll maybe explore that going forward. We have the idea of these two armies that are both looking for it, as well as a third party that's looking for it, with a potential other NPC that could come in as a kind of good aligned story, if you will. That if they wish to go down that way, they could. All right, I think that's a lot. I think we have a lot to work with there. I think we're trying in this video just get the concept under lock and key, and I think we're there. Yep. Unless you guys have anything else you can
I would
think
say
of. Obviously,
one last thing I would like to add. I think it'd be neat to, at the very start, have like a spy following them or trying to track them down, right, from one of the two factions.
Sure. Sure.
To add that sense of urgency, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it gives the idea of, like, if they are in the middle of this kind of conflict, you instantly have random encounters that you can build with a story reason behind them. Is like the armies are traveling through the woods and you come across one of them. Right. You know what I mean? And eventually maybe they have a wanted poster for the party because they know that it's with them. You know what I mean? And then it's developing that part of it a little bit.
Yeah, a key concept to making this adventure work is that sense of we don't know who our friends are, and we got a
constant sense of danger.
Right. Yeah, and what's the right move, right, for each character, because each character is going to have a different opinion on that.
Yep.
I think for this adventure, I think we highly recommend you get a good mix of alignments and backgrounds and things of that nature in your party, and try to do that as best you can, because that's going to make it all the more juicy.
Yep.
When stuff hits the fan, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Is there anything else we wanted to add in this concept video before we leave everyone?
I think I'm good.
I want to start playing this right now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I know. So what we're going to ask is that if you guys have any suggestions about things that we said, or maybe going forward about expanding some things, put those down in the comments. And maybe it's something that makes its way into one of our future videos here, and we're kind of take this step by step and try to work through something, and maybe at some point come out with this as a free PDF or something. We don't know yet, but just for right now, it's just kind of fun exploring this and seeing how it's going to come out. So, but until then, join us next time we slide into DemDMs. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Peace.